in the report was clear. Stop bickering. Both sides have valid points. Concentrate on ways for the two approaches to harmoniously reinforce one another. Of course, the report didn't bring the debate to a grinding halt, but it did suggest a mathematical solution to the question of how best to teach math. Take the average. I'm Andy Boyd at the University of Houston, where we're interested in the way inventive minds work.
A transcript of this Engines of Our Ingenuity episode, number 2769, is online at uh.edu/engines. Additional episodes are available by podcast.
Joining me here in the studio to talk a little bit about the upcoming historical walk and tour of downtown Farmington, Joan Monninger is here from the Rio del Sol Kiwanis Club. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Thanks for
Happy
coming.
to be here.
Great. Also, Judy Castleberry is here, who will be one of the characters on the walk this year. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott. Nice to see you.
Good to have you here as well. Welcome back to KSJE.
Good to be here.
And so, Joan, let's start with you a little bit about this event, because this is kind of a continuation, the second annual, because this came about last year. And it grew out of, since I was a part of it last year, having to cancel the annual Dining with the Dead event in September, and so they moved it to the spring, and it became this downtown historical walk event that's held in the spring, and you're bringing it back again this year.
Yes, well, yeah. So Jill McQuarrie, who has spent years with Dining with the Dead, putting that whole thing on, last year came up with the Downtown Historical Walk. It's something she'd wanted to do for a while, and having the characters downtown, concentrating a little bit more on downtown. So
right.
Put that together, and we're doing it again, and this time I'm chairing it, and we've added in some new characters and making some changes.
Very exciting, and
keeping some of the favorite things.
I can't tell you how upset I am that I'm going to miss it and can't be a part of it this year.
I can't tell you how upset I am that you're missing it.
I understand. But a lot of great characters, and talking a little bit about the buildings, too, which is kind of a cool thing that people, as they walk down through downtown, they kind of get the story of the people and also the historic buildings that are downtown.
Yeah. My background is in heritage tourism, and I was 20 years doing architectural and history tours of downtown Indianapolis. So
okay.
I liked the chance to add that. I mean, it's a great, Main Street America, and got some wonderful buildings to talk about. So
right.
Another exciting kind of component we're going to add to it.
Very true. And again, this is a fundraiser for the Rio del Sol Kiwanis Club, which we should mention, who does so much great work in the community throughout the year. And so this is why all of us are involved, because we love the Kiwanis Club and they do a great job.
Yeah, and everybody, and we've got a lot of folks that are pitching in on this, and so they're all volunteers. So our actors, our 15 tour guides, the folks that will be helping out at Artifacts 302, signing people in, folks down at the park helping with the antique car show, all these folks, and myself, everyone is a volunteer. So.
Right. So thank you for all that as well. So speaking of downtown characters, Judy Castleberry, you are back this year as a famous Farmingtonian from the past, Julia Miller,
yes.
right?
Yes, and her husband was A.F. Miller. Sometimes you hear more about A.F. because he, they started one of the very first general store, post office, and you name it. They were very definitely entrepreneurs. They kept just kind of adding to the business empire.
Right.
And so, you will hear about him. So often I think, okay, this is my little prejudice, I think sometimes women are overlooked in historical things like this, and I just love the fact that one of the nice things about these kind of tours is we're highlighting some of the pioneer mothers as well as the pioneer fathers.
Right.
She was the one running the businesses while he was, making sure the freight got here from Pueblo. So they worked as a team for quite a while.
Right. And probably raised a few kids, didn't she?
They had 4 before they moved here. So think about crossing the country in a covered wagon. We're
what, 1870, 1860s, around that?
1870s.
1870s, right.
And they first went to Pueblo,
Colorado,
from the New York area. So
no I-25.
No I-25. I've always been amazed at these ladies who were willing to hop on a covered wagon put a bunch of kids in it,
Yeah.
and haul them across the country.
Their worldly possessions.
All their worldly possessions. So then eventually, he came down here, thought it was a better business opportunity. She followed, and baby number 5 came along once they were here.
Right.
And that was their daughter Agnes. She was the first Anglo child born in Farmington.
Wow.
So this was really early, and that was like
Yeah.
1880.
Well, that's what I was going to point out. By a bigger or better business opportunity, that meant that there was nothing here.
No, there was
pretty much when they got here, compared to Pueblo.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're going into a place with where your store was going to be the store.
The store. I mean, it was the first store.
Yeah.
And, again, okay, personal history, my great-grandfather also freighted
Yeah.
in that area. And, again, if you think about where we are, where Pueblo is, and those mountains in between, they were hauling freight over some pretty rough territory.
Right. Yeah. Very true. No trains.
No
at
trains.
at that time. And so it would take weeks.
Weeks. And while he was off doing that, she was running the store, the businesses, the inn. And by the way, I've got 5 kids in my house.
Yeah,
So,
and that too.
Hey,
Probably put the kids to work for a while too.
That's right.
There we go. Very good. And so it's stories like this that we'll be hearing about from you
Yes.
and others, the other volunteers. So you'll be downtown in front of where we think the store was, right? Or where will you be?
in the not
It'll be-
really.
That's a little bit
Yeah.
outside of downtown,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But you'll be sharing the story
Yeah,
about the store.
I'll be in that wonderful orchard area because I'm going to talk about the streets.
Oh, yes.
So,
Right. There's a little story about that.
yeah, there's a story about that, and
Okay.
I'm that lady.
You are the one. Okay. Because there was a divorce.
There was a divorce.
You all right?
Yes.
Right? I'm remembering the right story, aren't I?
You're remembering the right story.
Okay.
One of them got property on one side of Maine, the other on the other, and she said, hey, I'm getting rid of him, and we are not going to have our streets match.
There you go. And that's why,
That's
to
why.
this very day, we have a little jog on some of those downtown streets, Orchard being probably the most prominent.
Exactly.
Why we have an oval about instead of a
we have an
roundabout
oval about
at that
instead of a
intersection.
roundabout, yes.
That's true. Very
So,
true.
yeah, I really think I ought to stand in the middle of the oval and wave at people and say, here I am.
There you go. My fault.
My fault.
There you go. That's true. We can all honk at you as we go by.
That's right.
That's very true. Well, Joan, I mean, stories like this will be repeated. You have how many volunteers on the tour
Gosh.
this year?
Well, and I can't remember off the top of my head how many. We got 15 tour guides.
15
and then
guides.
For the after parts, we have at least a dozen. I think some of them will be in groups, some of them on their own, but they've all got pretty fresh scripts, and everything sort of ties together into this theme of kind of Farmington as a history of the West and resilient folks, adventurous folks, all the kinds of things Judy and I have talked about when I
Right.
first came out here. And that's resilience, which is still what's going on. And
Very
so
true.
we're trying to kind of tie everything together, past, present, and future, to really showcase downtown Farmington.
Right, there you go. I want to show a couple other pictures from last year's event downtown, right, as you walk downtown. And again, and there's somebody with a lot of fur on his face. But standing in front of some of these great storefronts that we still have in downtown and talking about these pioneers and these buildings and how they all contributed. The antique cars will be back, right?
Yes.
You have the antique car show there at Orchard Park, right there, near where Julia will be talking about her
Yes.
gripe with her husband, with AF.
Yes.
Right, exactly. And so this will all start down at 302, correct? Is that kind of
Yes.
where things start? And you've
Yeah.
got entertainment going on down there with Sheldon Pickering and Sally Ann Bachman. So it's on April 30th.
It is April 30th, and you can get tickets at Howard's Cleaners, at Artifacts 302, and on Eventbrite. They are $15 a piece. We do expect to sell out, so better to get them sooner than later and
Right.
not get a chance to come do this. It is one evening only.
That's true.
So,
Just one night. That's true. April 30th,
Yes.
as we mentioned. And you can just take a nice guided tour through downtown
Yeah,
and
it's gonna
hear
be a
from
lot
some
of
of these characters. Judy, I know you and I, well, all of us in this room are history buffs. And
Right.
so we've been doing this, you and I, for a number of years.
Yes.
And learning about Farmington. Your family certainly has a big part of Farmington's history because they've been here for a long time.
Yeah, since 1885. So,
Okay.
so a little bit later
Okay.
than this couple.
Right. But I know in one of these events you have portrayed one of your great
I-
ancestors, right?
I've portrayed both my great-grandmother and my great-great-grandmother.
Yeah.
As I say, I've always been fascinated by these women who came cross country on covered wagons, which definitely my family did.
Right.
And I think they were extremely tough. And I love what Joan's trying to do by pulling this theme together of this was a very resilient group of people who came out here, there's water here, there's fertile land, but there's not much else. And they basically built this community.
Right.
And so I just think that's really cool.
Very true. I mean, not a lot of infrastructure that we would consider infrastructure today.
No. I
Right.
mean, Main Street was a dirt path,
Right, for a long time.
For a very long time.
Right. Maybe a little wider dirt path, but a dirt path. But very true. And so a great thing, if you're interested about history and learning about Farmington, learning about the people that help build this community and things along that line, you can check it out. I can show it over here.
Okay.
This was a book, right? This is about your...
This is the lady I'm portraying.
Okay.
She actually gathered all this information. She was quite a local historian herself. And her daughter, Agnes Miller Furman, actually pulled together a lot of her writings and created this book. And so, again, if you're looking for historical Farmington documents, this is one of the sources. And so,
Wonderful.
So anyway, we have some good local history resources.
A lot of great stories. Every time I'm part of these events, I learn more about the community, about the people, and some of the stories kind of intertwine, which is kind of fun to pay attention to as well, because they're all happening around the same time, and you hear these names over and over again that so-and-so was with so-and-so, and then they started a business with somebody else, and what have you. So.
Just always remember, there were only 3,000 people in Farmington in 1950. They obviously knew each other.
They knew, yes. Very true.
Well, I'm also
very true.
excited to bring in a Navajo voice.
This
Incorporating
year.
a little bit more this year, because we have someone outside the Navajo Museum to talk a little about trading post history and those arts and culture.
Perfect.
And then Roman McCabe from the Performance Center here at the college is going to be Jacob Morgan.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an exciting component. I think this year we're really happy to have him. He was Pathfinder back in 1989 at Farmington. So
Right.
I'm really glad to have him.
Very true. A lot of great individuals to learn about on this tour. So that's what everyone can do. Again, tickets are available. Howard's Cleaners and at Artifacts 302, $15. And it all starts 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
On the 30th?
Yep, and the tours will start going out, and there you go.
Okay,
Like
very
I said,
good.
a great time for everybody, I think.
And last year was a wonderful time, and I know folks, I think there were some folks that actually stopped and had dinner and then picked up another tour. They just kind of tagged along to another tour that was wrapping up, and so...
You can try to keep them on their in their
Yeah,
groups,
I
but
understand.
I do hope that while they're downtown...
But plan the night, plan the evening.
It's a great time to be downtown and enjoy all the great restaurants.
Very, very true. Thank you both for coming in this morning and sharing a little bit about this great event. Again, it is the Historic Walk in downtown Farmington coming up on April 30th from 4 to 7 p.m. to benefit the Rio del Sol Kiwanis Club.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Though he had a